nowadays there are so many ways to play. When you're going to collect some original cartridges, they are very affordable. Of course, there are always these exceptions of very overpriced games. But if you take a close look at some games like Mortal Kombat 2, I can say like, oh boy, this is not a good experience, now even in 2021. Asterix and Obelix, it's super cool. Sonic, man, I'm a big Sonic fan forever. I still really enjoy the Game Gear versions, and of course Columns is a fun game to play. But nowadays, a lot of people are just super naughty and get yourself a Game Gear flash card. You guys flash all your games to it if you want to, and you don't need all of these anymore. So in that case, even then, when you're having like a fully modded system, you can make it even more naughty and ultimate with a flash gear and some other devices, cartridges out there that you can get. But in another video, we'll talk about more the flash gear. Is this thing worth your money? And how will it load up the games? Because there we're going to get some significant differences when you're looking at some of these cartridges. Because they are cheap, they're from AliExpress, but not always, they are always great. But the Game Gear on the other hand was in my opinion the next level. Having a backlight features, it was just amazing. We had like freaking sick batteries in this bad boy, still uses the cartridges and had a lot of great games. But nowadays you can still get them. What I already mentioned, the problem with these devices are like the backlight will always work, but the capacitors will break down. And even now in 2021, oh boy, I can tell you like this screen is not the experience that you want to have. Capturing from it, it's possible. The D-pad feels very comfy. It feels kind of sturdy compared with the Game Boy Classic. But for all of these things now we have a solution, and that is what we're going to talk about today. A couple of months ago I picked up this fully customized Sega Game Gear. There was this guy on my local marketplace selling this, and by the way there are a lot of people selling this Game Boy nowadays. You can find them on eBay, like there are so many places, but the question remains, is it worth getting in 2021, even with all the upgrades we needed back in the day in the 90s. But you can get yourself an LCD for every single system, and when you're going to do a side-by-side comparison, you can see that it's just such a major improvement. And if you just want to play some Sega Game Gear games, and you don't want to have the hassle with an old display like this, I think when you're comparing them side by side, oh boy, it looks so much better. And that's, in my opinion, one of the best upgrades I ever had when it comes to the Sega Game Gear. Even we have so many options and so many ways to play when it comes to Sega Game Gear, because you can play it on your phone, you can play it on a Chinese handheld, but I wanted to play it on original hardware. For me that is like the best and like say the awesome way to experience the old school retro games, but only with a new 2021 touch. So the first thing he changed out for this build is a completely new shell, and also includes a front glass. You can see everything looks like original. You would almost think it would come out of the factory like this, but of course it isn't, because of the many modifications it has been done. Then we're going to get the option for the original battery, but here at the top we're also going to get the option for using a 5V, and with this 5V we can do a lot of great things. Okay, so with 5V we can just use a phone charger. You need to take consideration, you need to get a really good one, otherwise it doesn't give enough power. And we can use a power bank. And that is just really cool, so we can play in our games on the go with a 10,000, or of course, depends how big your capacity is, but for hours and hours now. Well, let's boot it up the old school fashion way first. But let's try it with the 6 batteries. It's not really recommended in my opinion, because with the new LCD it will consume more energy. So booting it up, you will be reintroduced with the Sega Game Gear in 2021 with a beautiful IPS display. But there are some other things that are pretty cool if you ask me. So let's talk about the controls and the audio. But the audio itself is super loud now. Like with a lot of Game Boy Classic systems, we can improve the speaker and we're going to get a way better experience even for a mono speaker. And I think that is just a major upgrade for this Game Gear. So the first thing I noticed when playing this device is that the D-pad feels way better. It doesn't feel that sturdy or schmoozy, to be honest. And even with the buttons, I think this thing even plays better than the original Game Gear laying around. So that is something that is always like a great thing, because when it comes to custom shells and custom buttons, it's like a question, will it play the same or better than your previous system? And with this, no problem at all. So I'm very glad with the Game Gear when it comes to the controls and of course the beautiful display. But on the left side we're going to get the on and off switch over here. Then we're going to get here the Type-C port for of course the 5V connection, not the 9V that says over here. At the right side we're going to get all the options like with the original Game Gear, headphone, volume control, and we're having still the original port for connecting with another Game Gear. And at the right side we're going to get the brightness control. And I even didn't put it on the maximum brightness when recording a video. I must say that I put them on, let's say 80 up to 90%. That is the most beautiful part of it. If you're going to put the maximum, it's going to be too bright in my opinion. But the option is here, so you can change out the brightness. Even if you want to put it on a very dark option, it is possible. Okay, so let's remove the batteries and let's use a 5V power charger. And then let's try out a power bank. I think it's super convenient, especially if you want one on the go and you just want to play your original Game Gear games on a Game Gear with an LCD. This is just a super convenient thing. But take note, that is something that you don't use on every single modded Game Gear. So that's something you need to take consideration. Sometimes you need to even pay for it extra. Okay, so let's try the first test. Let's plug in this bad boy. The adapter itself is a 2.9 amp, so it's a quite powerful one. Alright, let's power it on. And here you can see it works like a charm. But I have this brain fart and I just completely forget to put in the cartridge. Of course, Wicked, go all great. Don't forget to check out the second channel, the Wicked Brain Fart channel. And you can see it works very well. So next up, let's try with a power bank. I think this is just a super convenient way if you want to play some Sega Game Gear on the go. Now with the LCD display in combination with the power bank, we can play hours and hours on this. Of course, you can always use it with a tiny version if you want to have more like a compact power bank. I just wanted to see how heavy is this thing, including batteries. So this thing is a whopping 516 grams. Holy crap, that is a lot. Oh, the old days. You got to go to get beefcake arms when playing with your systems. Beefcake! Alright guys, so let's do a quick teardown and let's take a close look inside and how everything looks when it comes to soldering skills. Let's take a close look at the top PCBs, because one of them is of course new. Here we're going to get the Clean Power Game Gear Edition. This is a special PCB that they made for the Game Gear, so you can upgrade this old beast and then we can use a power bank of course. And then we have the option to use an adapter, and overall like a 5V solution is pretty cool and genius. And of course this is something extra that you need to pay for by most creators. Also what he did a completely recap of the mainboard. I already told you in the beginning of this video, just like common issues with these Game Boys. But the modification is no like joke, because what you can see over here, we need a complete new PCB for the LCD itself. And here you can see at the left side we're going to get the cable, or it's more like a very thin PCB that goes over here soldered to the main board, because here we can control the brightness of course. But I also need a lot of different soldering points. So also here I would say the soldering itself looks very nice, but that's one of the upgrades that you need to do if you want to assemble it yourself. And the same story applies here at the right side. Here we're going to get the same kind of situation, that we have a lot of, let's say, new soldering points that we need to connect to the main board for getting the LCD to work on the old tech. And over here in the middle we're going to get the ribbon cable that goes to the LCD. That is basically on the other side of course. But take a consideration, you can make it yourself. It's just a kit you can pick up. You can buy the shells if you want to. There are like a lot of great custom shells out there. Or what you can do is just get yourself a pre-built one. It is all up to you, but I just wanted to give you a quick look in the inside. But is this just the ultimate way to play? That is something of course you need to decide for yourself. Because how far you want to go with this hobby. Retro gaming, it's a very expensive hobby. There are many ways to play. To begin with, we can use different cartridges. I've shown you like there are many cheap ways to play. So when you're getting yourself an ultimate card, you can get yourself a flash gear. They are super cheap and like the ultimate nutty way to play. The original Game Gear, even mine, had still some issues. The previous owner said he didn't completely recap, but they still have issues with this bloody thing. And I'm so happy that I have now like a completely refurbished one with a new LCD and of course completely new PCB components in it. But the biggest downside is just that this thing is freaking expensive. And yeah, I know a lot of people will use different devices to play Sega Game Gear games, but that is more the question how far you want to go with this. But what is the best way to play some Sega Game Gears for you? That is something you need to decide for yourself. I really love to play on original hardware, and even when it comes with some minor modifications like an LCD display, or we can use an external battery.